Okay, Jason, thank you very much for coming on the Security Space podcast today. What we will be discussing today is the impact of security risks on the retail sector and how they respond to them. But before we get into it, Jason, are you okay just to give the audience a little bit of an introduction to yourself, if that's okay?
Well, certainly. So I'm Jason Brown. I'm the CISO for Harding Retail. We deal along the lines of retail providers for cruise liners, anything from warehouse, from purchasing to warehouse, all the way through to the endpoints and point of sales on the cruise liners. Trying to make it a bit of an upmarket, I guess you could say, retail experience, I guess you could say, customer focused, very, very well, it's a range, I've got to admit. It's a range of products that we offer on that side of things, varying from brightening watches, all the way through to rums and alcohol, tobacco, and that sort of stuff. So yes, that's where we are. But yeah, I've been in cybersecurity for over 16 years. Started my life in a security operations centre back in the day, after leaving the military, of course. I'm not going to say much more about that, but ex-Royal Navy and ex-Army as well. But yeah, then I progressed into IT for 16 years. I started as a SOC analyst, then progressed my way through various companies, including NATO NSERC. I've done a fair bit of contracting as well. Yeah, and global head of operations for Jaguar Land Rover through the TCS aspect on that side of things, and also a threat analytics developer for BT as well. So I've been through the whole stage of incident response. I've done major incident management as well and running the incident side of things. And I'm just progressing with my master's in digital forensics and just developing on that side of things. So it's all fun and games. It's all go. So yeah, there we are. To be quite honest with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, as mentioned there, you've covered quite the range of sectors from military to automotive. Obviously we're now in retail as well, and we had a bit of telecom sprinkled in there that fell out the back pocket as well, didn't we? So yeah, we've got quite a few different sectors. But what we will be focusing on today is the retail sector and the challenges they face on a security front. So to kind of delve in with the first question, then, Jason. Why is the retail sector sort of a top target for threat actors? What makes it so appealing to them?
Well, think of the threat landscape of this side of things. So you're always out in the public side of things. You're always bringing in revenue. They see shops, they see revenue, they see a large income on that side of things. And the primary focus, I must admit, about retail is to sell produce and make money, same as any business on that side of things. But obviously, because it's so publicly visible, it makes it a clear independent target on that aspect. The primary concern, I must admit, is the operations side of things. It is secondary aspect when we talk about security, same as most cultures. Security is an afterthought. It's like, oh, we need compliance for this, that, and the other. And people will go off on a tangent and maybe start standing up a bit of a security team. But unfortunately, it's it's a case of playing catch up because there's so many moving parts in the retail aspect on that side of things. We're talking about security culture, security lockdown of devices, networks, and that side of things. And if you don't have the team to support that, then there's always going to be a weakness, which can quite easily be exploitable. So, yeah, it's not a case of buying a piece of technology and it's going to manage and monitor absolutely everything. It doesn't work like that. It never has done in security. It's a security cultural focus. They'll say the biggest weakness in any security aspect is basically the person. So that will always be the case. We can lock down technology as much as possible, providing we've got the skill sets to actually do that. Buying a piece of technology is one thing, tuning it, developing it, enhancing it, making sure you're current on that side of things. People will buy a security service like nobody's business, but are they keeping current with today's threat actors on that side of things? What's the latest exploits? What's the latest CVEs, patching, and that sort of stuff? So behind all of this sort of stuff, we've got the likes of ERP sort of things and databases, which always have to be maintained, patched, updated on that side of things. Now, a lot of companies can't afford to take these offline, so there's too much of a dependency on it. In effect, yeah, it's down to sanitizing, it's down to patch control, it's down to maintenance windows and that side of things, but it's also down to the people that actually do it, whether they actually have these sort of things in place. So there's always shortfalls between one company to another. If you've got the people and the manpower and the managed service to actually do that, that's all well and good. But you'll find a lot of these retail companies actually don't have that aspect. So it's a bit of a hindrance and it's a bit of a catch up on that side of things. Staying current is one thing, but being proactive, well, that's a different ball game, to be quite honest with you.
Hmm. So what's the culture like then in the retail sector towards cybersecurity?
Um, I think it's forthcoming and developing because obviously everyone's afraid of GDPR fines, NIS2 fines, ICO fines, and data breach fines, and everything like that. So they're kind of worried about fines. Ever since those fines have come in, people have actually turned around and said, well, we need to have some form of assurance now because we're kind of terrified of getting billed. Unfortunately, that's a bit of a scaremongering tactic, but it gets the point across to the likes of the stakeholders to say, we need this, we need this, we need this. Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus as well. When we go along that line, it gives some form of assurance and everything like that. Putting those controls in, we know it's a project and it's constantly developing on that side of things. Security awareness is how far do you want to go with security awareness? Have you got the mandatory baseline that you just tick and box for the likes of phishing campaigns and stuff like that? Or do you do the likes of enforcing key vaults and stuff like that? So there's lots of different ways you can enforce it, but you've always got to think of a balance. That's what I must say. So you design something, you build something, and everything like that. That's all well and good, and that's an effect and a knock on to the operation things. But when we start implementing the likes of security to say an end user can't do this, for example, we want it to be a bit of a give and take. So I don't know if you do a password policy on that side of things and just turn around and say, okay, or a lockdown policy we're going to put your computer in lockdown or go into standby mode after 60 seconds, for example. Used to be 3 minutes. Okay, we'll give you Windows Hello in advance on that side of things. It's a biometric password and everything is a biometric control on that side of things. So it's easier to log in. So we've basically taken something away from them and also given it back to them. Same as device hardening on that side of things. If you're always doing engineering works, you need to ensure that the device hardening is actually locked down and suitable and everything like that. If they're non-usable ports, obviously don't use them and everything like that. Completely not to lock them down. But yeah, I would say it's actually got to be a bit of a give and take because obviously the last thing we want to do is take the likes of ERP offline or something like that. It's the end of the world scenario where we've actually impacted operations. Goods can't go out to our retail shops. We can't purchase this, that, and the other. But that I would say is probably the case 99% of it. But security culture and security awareness. How many people just go next, 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 next? Yeah, done. Mandatory training. What a ball ache. Why would we want to? You know. But at the end of the day, we call the internet the wild, and we call it the wild for a reason. So we're not only protecting their interests, we're also protecting our own interests as well as a company. So if we can teach people about the tools they actually use and think about best practices on what they use, then they may be able to take it home and actually turn around and say, hang on a minute, why do I want to click on the Nigerian lottery phishing campaign? You know, it's inevitable, but you'll find so many people do it.
Yeah.
There's basic steps they can take, and if they take note of the mandatory training and they actually walk away with something that they've actually learned something that day, then I think it's a bit of a success. But obviously, the internet is so vast, the security controls are so varied, and whole, you know, it's a continuous evolution. It's our job to actually preach this sort of stuff and preach security and everything.
Yeah.
But the end user, it's not their job security in and out and everything like that. We would like to say, well, do you read an instruction manual before you go ahead and build something or something like that? Here's your best practices on how to do it and this, that, and the other. A lot of people just turn around and say, nah, just get out of the box by IKEA and just say, there you go. That's what a lot of people do. But some people do actually take the time and the effort to turn around and say, how's this piece joined with that piece?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
It's the culture of the person, to be quite honest with you. If they're more interested in going out on the lash that night on that side of things, rather than taking 5 minutes just to make sure all the updates are installed on their endpoint or something like that, that's their choice at the end of the
Yeah.
day. We can't enforce that.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring in a little bit around the bit of regulatory pressures around the retail sector.
Yep.
And I suppose PCI DSS is one that would probably impact that sector the most, probably. Could you explain to people, firstly, what PCI DSS actually is, and again, how that will impact the retail sector?
So, payment card industry, PCI, the DSS, the security standards on that side of things. So, there's a lot of regulatory compliance, like we know it in security for ISO 27001. That's your best framework on that side of things for security. But obviously, there's sub requirements. But PCI DSS is basically your payment card industry. So, all the servers where payment cards information is actually stored and is connected onto the Swift banking side of things or whatever banking side of things it may be, because now we've got brick, haven't we, or something like that. But there's other ones and everything like that. But these are your best practices to ensure the storage of payment cards, the encapsulation, the encryption, all the way down to the endpoint. So we're talking about a whole enterprise solution of storing on a server, saving it, saving all the information, ensuring that the data in transit and data in storage is fully encrypted on that side of things. And it also goes down to the likes of all the way down to data retention, how long we store it for. I think it's 18 months in PCI DSS. Um, Quick way, outsource it. If your endpoints on that side of things or point of sales on that side of things, outsource it to an MSSP that have PCI DSS requirements and regulations, and they've got all the QSAs in place on that side of things. These are your auditors of the QSAs. Otherwise, you're conducting an internal audit pretty much every 12 months, I think it is. It might be down to 6, but it's a continuous improvement on that side of things. So basically, we're talking about an isolated server, an isolated storage area, and an isolated endpoint, whether it's a till or a point of basically any form of point of sales and card readers and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of regulatory information to say there's 16 characters on a card. We may want to look for that, and we may want to be interested in that from the data leakage perspective. So maybe have a look at that and see if whether we can actually detect it from emails or from, I don't know, DNS leakage or something like that, DNS tunneling and that sort of thing. CNC information. You might even go one step further and actually put it into the likes of a threat intelligence platform to actually see whether these people actually have their cards out there. So we've got the likes of tips that can do dark web horizon scanning and stuff like that, and it can actually identify people's user information all the way down to their addresses and everything like that, whether it's being leaked on the dark web. So there's ways you can do it and be proactive about it to ensure that it's being monitored and locked down. So yeah, that's basically what we do. We basically just turn around and say that we'll go down the route of an MSSP on that side of things to ensure that, because obviously cruise liners have their own point of sales and everything like that, and they're managed through a different third party. So that's how that works, and they take payments that way.
Yeah.
There's a lot of times where it's actually on cruise liners, it's payless payments on that side of things, so cashless payments. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
So
Interesting.
just get billed to their room and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
that's how it works.
Interesting. And so are you kind of inferring there, well, segueing into what my next question would be around sort of the supply chain risks when it comes to the retail sector. And the way I sort of see this, and let me frame it this way, is the amount of transactions that can go on in the retail sector is as a ridiculous amount, probably the most compared to any other sector. But it's just seen as a little bit of, I don't know, not low hanging fruit in terms of maybe the education sector or maybe I don't know, possibly the manufacturing sector, with them two being the most hit. But I won't say retail is too far behind it. I don't think it gets the same to the mainstream media. I don't think it gets the same cybersecurity awareness of what maybe a critical national infrastructure get or a financial sector or a legal sector. Everyone kind of assumes like, oh yeah, they will be a secure sector. I think retail is sort of mid-table, which which shocks me a little bit with how much sort of data is involved in it, how much potential risk there is to the end user. Do you agree, or do you completely think I'm chatting maca out of that, Justin? What do you think?
I don't think you're far off on that side of things, but obviously we're talking CNI on that side of things. So we're talking OT monitoring and all that sort of stuff, but we're talking critical. That is the big buzzword on that side of things, the critical national infrastructure on that side of things. So if this goes out, it affects people's lives.
Mm,
The healthcare service on that side of things. If an MRI scanner or a hospital goes out on that side of things, it's pretty much, we're talking lives. If a shop closes down, then just think of your shop at the end of the street. You've got three or four. I'm just taking regular scenario on this side of things. Three or four shops at the end of your street on that side of things. If a shop closes down, what do? You don't worry about it, or you order online, or you just go here, there, and everywhere on that side of things. So that's not the end of the world scenario. So we don't deem it as that side of things, but the exposure side of things, because it's always in public view, will be phenomenal. So this is easy takings, this is easy moneys. You're getting thousands on thousands of things. So think of Tesco's, for example, multi-million or multi-billion pound industry on that side of things. If one of their stores go down, it impacts their revenue, which comes directly in. So it affects their revenue, yes, but we're not talking about lives here. We're talking about revenue. There's a bit of a difference on that side of things. Yes, we're talking about storage data and everything like that, but ultimately it's a revenue generating. A business is a revenue generating. A service, however, well, we're talking about lives here. So they're two different categories. They're regulated by two different departments. Whether it be talk about MOD, we're talking about the Official Secrets Act and all the List X stuff and all this, that, and the other on that side of things. And compare it to the likes from MOD to the likes of, I don't know, retail.
yeah.
So we can go down retail, and yes, it's governed by the ICO on that side of things. I still wonder where their fines actually go to. I still can't figure that out because I don't think it goes to the MCSC. But obviously, a business is a business which is there to make money. It needs operations to make money on that side of things. And obviously, when it comes to the security aspect of side of things, we can't actually define a regulatory information. Yes, if it's over Europe on that side of things, we could talk about GDPR, we could talk about NIS2, and the likelihood, and I don't even think it even, no, it doesn't even fall under DORA, which is the Resiliency Act on that side of things, which has just been set up. So there's a lot of compliance that goes with the higher tier critical national infrastructure against the limited compliance against the retail sector. Yes, data protection. We're still talking about customers' information and data protection, data at rest, data in transit, whether that may be the case. But it's more lapse. Although the threat and the target is there and it's more appetizing, they know that. Hackers actually know that sort of stuff. They know the key thing to do it is to actually attack a user rather than attack an actual corporation. And this will be exploited.
Mm. So,
Think about the people that actually want to go for critical national infrastructure. We're talking serious hacktivists here, government agencies, or the
information
government, should
state.
I say, and that sort of stuff. The clientele that actually want to go for the likes of a retail service are the people that are actually adamant that they want to go for the money side of things.
Yeah.
Or maybe whether they just want to do reputational damage on that side of things. But I'm pretty certain the end goal is basically the money aspect.
Yes.
You've
Yeah.
got a revenue of billions of pounds and everything like that. An opportunist is just going to come along and say, "I want a slice of that cake," and just
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So based on that, then I'm just going to tie in sort of your background and a couple of things that you mentioned there. Obviously, I know that you come from the SOC background. I know that then you mentioned there a little bit about the brand reputation. How important, given sort of the high value of customer data in the retail sector, is sort of proactive threat intelligence? And what I mean by that is sort of like the ability to make sure that none of this data is being leaked to the to deep dark web. And with brand protection, how do you protect sort of Harding's brand, not not getting sort of misinformation spread about it? How do you sort of respond to these sort of threat intelligence risks?
Start with the threat intelligence side of things. So look at a threat landscape. What's going on over the last 6 months on that side of things? What are the key targets in the retail sector? What's the biggest sort of attacks on that side of things? We can look at ransomware, we can look at phishing, we can look at scanning on that side of things. So you've got to think about your real time monitoring on that side of things as well. So threat intelligence feeds into the real time monitoring. Yes, we've got dynamic IPs and IOCs, indicators of compromise, indicators of attack on that side of things, but we've also got the likes of static threat intelligence. So we know these hacking groups are being very active. Go on to the likes of MITRE.org or something like that and see what they are most common for. Look at the tools they use, look at the exploits they actually utilize, look at the ransomware they actually utilize, and see if we can develop proactive threat actors on that side of things and then put them into a use case on that side of things. Making sure endpoints are there, making sure you're patched, making sure you're up to date. That's always step one side of things. Security awareness. Well, I can preach that until I'm blue in the face on that side of things, but the easiest thing to do is actually technical controls in the background that locks them down that little bit more. So the stuff of people downloading to their mobile phones and stuff like that when they have a Teams and everything, just don't do it. Just seriously don't do it. Don't allow it. You can block it off in multiple ways on that side of things, and just stop making yourself a target. So yeah, it's easier said than done on that aspect. I hate to say, but yeah, think about all the ransomware. Think about all the types of tools that are actually being utilised on that side of things from those sorts of hacking groups that are targeting the retail industry, and then put it into a use case. So develop that use case for proactive monitoring on that side of things. Develop a rule. If you've got a seam on that side of things, put it in seam. It doesn't take you 5 minutes to develop that rule. And obviously, hopefully, you'll never want it to fire, unfortunately. But if it fires, you know that some experience is going on and you get a bit concerned on that side of things. But yeah, you've got to stay proactive. You've got to stay current. I'm not going to say get ahead of the curve on that side of things because that's easier said than done. It's hard enough just to actually keep current. But
Yep.
if you have the likes of a threat intelligence analyst on that side of things, then they can give you a 3 monthly report of what's been going on. And these are the common threat groups, and this is what's been happening to this group. So and so has been identified as a breach by so and so. You can utilize all of that side of things. How did they do it? Can we get the file hashes on that side of things? Do you want file hashes? What sort of ransomware did they use? And it kind of gives you a spirit side of things. So just want a little overview, just have a look on the Hacker News and stuff like that. Scroll through your intelligence pages.
Yep. Yeah. And would you say that retail is probably the most hit in terms of fraud, or would you say that that's mainly the financial sector or even the legal sector? How does the retail sector line up in terms of fraud?
I don't know what aspect on that side of things. Identity theft on that side of things. Loss prevention. People taking in receipts on that side of things. Yeah, I must admit, I can't say that I've actually come across it on that side of things because, like I say, we outsource our point of sale and the PCI information to a third party because obviously we have to on that side of things.
Yeah.
But the likes of credential theft and that side of things, well, you can lock it down through MFA, the likes of credit card fraud and stuff like that. That's between the owner and the bank on that side of things. We're just a third party intermediary. If you think about it, we're just selling goods and everything like that. So we're
Yeah.
quite limited on that aspect. We can turn around and say this card was used so and so and everything like that. And if the police come to us, then according to ACPO, we'll provide them all the information through the chain of custody and obviously all the forensics and the logs and everything like that if required.
Yeah.
So we're kind of covered off on that side of things.
Okay. Okay. And I'm probably going to take the words out of your mouth here with I think that your next answer may start with security is security, but obviously you've worked in military, automotive, telecom, and now retail. Um, what's been the main differences moving between these sectors that you found?
Every job's been kind of different. So every different role that I took and everything like that. So if I was working in the military on that side of things, I was a gate guardian, stand on a gate with a gun, military provost guard service, and before that I was Royal Navy, which is basically putting a screwdriver to a radar on that side of things and playing with big guns off the coast. Um, but the likes of a SOC analyst, there may be reporting differences, but then I go up to the likes of a security consultant. That's where you've got to understand all your technical aspects, whether it be McAfee, Poe, whether it be networks, whether it be cloud based, or the likes of threat intelligence. This is basically understanding a completely different landscape. But now, obviously, I've just come into the role of a CISO on that side of things. Now it's basically strategy based. So the likes of JLR and TCS that I was working with on that side of things, it was operational. So we've got to think about disseminating the relevant information, thinking about the maturity aspects. There is governance and controls on that side of things. So that's the automotive side of things. But obviously, it depends on the role that affects your governance, your risk, and your compliance. So it's a bit of a dependency because obviously each industry will have its own regulatory requirements, and obviously you have to adhere to them. But then you've got to think, how do I mature this aspect? So NIST, that has a maturity framework on that side of things.
Yep.
CMMF, maturity framework on that side of things. But there's always different things to turn around and say, what's next? How do I integrate this with this? How do I make sure that my threat intelligence team are talking with my monitoring team? And then my monitoring team are talking with the incident response team to turn around and say, we want these artifacts, and maybe identify as a P2, isolate the device and stuff like that.
Yep.
So you've got to think about the whole process and how they all interact. GRC, well, that's usually a reporting function, but off the back of that, you may have some actions to turn around and say, okay, lock down this by 10 seconds or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So, yeah, obviously, regulatory, that is a big one that you have to adhere to. There's no messing about. It's mandatory at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Obviously, the size of business will obviously dictate the manpower that you basically have your security towers or whatever towers you have
Yeah.
that you can actually explore and mature, because you've got to think about people and you've got to think about the workload they've got, the projects they've got on, the burnout they could potentially have. And if I chuck another piece of technology in there, I've got to consider training, the maintenance, and obviously the development of it.
Yep.
So no matter what you talk about with the technology stacks, it's not just a piece of technology because it's nice and shiny, put it in, there you go. It
Yep.
doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
Okay. Okay. Just last couple of questions for me, Jason. I feel like we've flown through this, but speaking from a very naive white British male standpoint that I am, my viewpoint would be that in retail, would you get most incidents or a peak in traffic around Christmas time when the shops are absolutely smashed with transactions? Or like I say, I'm very much in my box and it's Christmas time. There is other religions, there is other obviously seasonal effects that might come into this. But what's your viewpoint on when you have peaks and troughs in terms of traffic?
So peaks and troughs on that side of things is normally failed logging attempts on that side of things. It may be a multiplicity of things. Bear in mind, we actually monitor the infrastructure because obviously, like I say, our point of sales and everything like that goes off to a third party. But peaks and troughs, your network activity on that side of things, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. So, yes, I have been in a commercial environment on that side of things back in the days of Dixon's carting. Um, so, yes, I was brought in with IBM to actually deal with Dixon's car phone on that side of things and enhance their monitoring. So we had, what was it, Cyber Monday or Cyber Friday or whatever they call it, Black Friday and all this
Oh,
sort of
Cyber
stuff.
Monday, yeah.
Oh my God, it was the end of the world scenarios,
Marketing, isn't it? It's marketing.
databases. It was like they was being DOS, but it was actually because when they sent out a promotion, everybody jumped on these sort of promotions. And obviously, it was actually dealing with the traffic side of things on that side of things. Were we getting attacked? No, basically, it was the amount of orders that was going through and the database couldn't handle it. So you get your operational issues on that side of things. But yeah, that's what I would say. But ultimately, security incidents are defined on what you actually detect and what you're actually monitoring for. I hate to say it. So, am I looking for insider traffic? Am I looking for data leakage? Spurious logons from different geolocations? Yep. Malicious PowerShell scripts. All of these obviously are part of our infrastructure, which we have endpoints, monitoring agents on that side of things, which we develop use cases for through threat intelligence as well. So your endpoint detection and response on that side of things, you may have automation playbooks on that. You may have custom detection rules on that side of things, which obviously will go through an IR process, lockdown, kick them off, reset a user, restart his deal with his session on that side of things.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And just like that, Jason, we've come to our time. So thank you very much for your time today, Jason. What we discussed there was yeah, quite in depth and a lot. I was just very curious about the retail sector. So if anybody has any question that Jason has raised today or wants to learn more about his role at Harding, or his previous roles for that matter, I'll be sure to put Jason and Harding's information down below. But once again, Jason, thank you very much for coming on the Security Space podcast.
Been an absolute pleasure, Nick. You have a good time, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Take care.
Cheers.